Okay, welcome to Coach Greg Freeman, who's coaching at Birmingham Lions. So, hi Greg, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you doing, Simon?
Yeah, I'm brilliant, thanks. I've seen myself and Greg have coached against each other quite a few times.
Many years of the best rivalries of my career. So yeah, always happy to to kind of talk to you and chat through football because you've always obviously been a person who clearly knows a lot. So always happy to talk it through.
At the moment, I'm just keeping myself amused, learning from everyone else. So,
Aren't we all? Aren't we all?
so I spoke to Thomas Casson yesterday, who's at Oxford University, and we talked about recruitment and retention. And they're traditionally a smaller squad, difficult with recruitment. And I said, yeah, I said it's very different at Hearts. And certainly at your experiences will be very different. So, firstly, can we touch on sort of hints and tips on recruitment and getting players into at freshers, whatever you do at freshers?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing at Birmingham is we've traditionally had the biggest squad, so we've got used to managing it, and I think um, I when I joined the program, there was maybe we probably carried a squad of 55 to 60, and through the 2010s, we started to carry a squad more like between 90 and 110, something like that. So having seen that firsthand, I think the big thing that really changed, not changed, but was just doubled down on, was making recruitment a culture rather than I've been around programs where new players are seen as like a negative threat to the incumbent player, and all that kind of stuff. And people are like, "Oh, I just don't care about it. Like, I just want to turn up, I want to play, I want to do my own lifting, all that kind of stuff." And I think it's flipping that mindset to actually a big squad is what makes us the program we are. It's what gives us a consistent flow of players like elite third years, elite fourth years, even some contributors second, first year, obviously. But equally, like a lot of like the nice shiny things you get is because you've got a big squad and you've got 90 people paying fees every year, and it's kind of selling the merits of that to the players. I think that's been so successful over the 2010s. And I mean, we've run things like incentives for whoever recruits the most people on the recruitment days or through Freshers Week, because like gets whatever prize or gets tickets to something. Like we really like drive because if we spend 150 quid on a prize for like a cool prize that's worth winning, actually it pays itself back in 10 sets of fees. So there's a clear ROI on that kind of thing. Like you spend some money on it, it pays back. That's what business is, right? So we've created this culture that nothing matters more than recruitment and nothing matters more than building the squad. And it can get lost that I think some people think, oh, well, like I've done my bit, we've done the freshers fair, we've done the sports fair, whatever it is, like it stops then. Honestly, some of our best players ever have been recruited in like the toilets of nightclubs when everyone's been drunk, and like it's been like, oh, like what do you like why are you all together, kind of, oh, play American football, you're a big guy, like why don't you come play, like nightclubs are a great place to find like your linemen. Like they love a beer, they're all out drinking, and yeah, like don't be afraid to have that conversation. Like be ballsy enough to say, do you know that American football exists at the university? Like, do you like have you considered it? And the more of those conversations you have, the more people say, "Oh yeah, no, we have. We like you guys actually do really well, don't you?" And that kind of snowballs. And but it's all from a culture of recruitment first mindset, and I think that's the big thing that we've probably done quite a good job of over the years, and everybody buys into that.
Yeah, I mean, an amazing job. I love the idea of sort of changing the narrative of recruiting to helping the club forward and things. Fantastic. And then, so do do you have sort of a freshers practice or several freshers practice, and anything different than a normal practice to get them to come out? I'll tell you why I ask, and I should be letting you talk, but and O-line coaches are going to kill me now, but you get the big guys and they're doing steps all practice, they're not coming back. So what do you do to sort of incentivize the return?
Everybody gets to do whatever they want. Like, if you think at £350 you're going to be the world's best DB, go try it. Like, we've got 3 or 4 years of you to kind of convince you that you're not. And like, if you want to, and people might watch this and go, oh, it's easy when you're Birmingham and you've already got 7 of them, kind of thing. But actually, like, we struggle as much as anybody else. Like, we're not a big rugby university, like, so we don't get that kind of waterfall effect that some of the other other unis get with like great rugby players pushing the kind of good rugby players out and then trying American football. We don't really get that. So what we do is we have the first session of the year. So we'll probably do like 2 or 3 weeks of preseason with the vets leading up to this, but Freshers Week, it is all about the freshers. Like, we probably don't even practice as a team in Freshers Week. Yeah, so we don't have a practice on the Tuesday of freshers. Wednesday or Thursday, we'll do like the freshers session, where we get, I don't know, anywhere, we'll get like 350 signups probably from the freshers fair, and then 120 will turn up, 130, something like that. If you think about like conversion ratios, like a 1 in 3 is probably quite good. Like a 3-to-1 ratio seems solid. And you get 300 signups by really pushing recruitment on the day. Like, we have, God knows how, at Freshers Fair, we've got literally the entire squad out and about on campus, out and about at the fair all day, chucking balls at people, like getting them to catch them, engaging, like starting conversations. So anything you can do to start a conversation. At the session on the Thursday, we will set up a station for each of the positions. We do avoid quarterback because it's not worth it. We'll say, like, if anybody thinks they want to be a quarterback or a kicker, we can practice that next time out. We generally do some kicking at the end of that first session, but usually, like, the more like, are you going to be a proper kicker or a punter is done a little bit later. 10-minute rotations at each station, or like 9 plus a minute to rotate. No coaches. So the coaches aren't present. Like, the head coach is the only person who attends that session. The coaches can drop by if they want to, but it's a player-led session. And I definitely bore people in the American football community about how I view football, but I just view running a football program like I'd view running a business, because I'm a lot probably better at running a business than I am at running a football program. So I just try and apply things. And the phrase that I always coach people in sales to think about is, would you want to be the recipient of that message? So if a salesperson is making a call or sending an email or doing a demo, doing a meeting, if you read it back to yourself, if you hear yourself back, did you want to be the person that was listening to that message, understanding that message, having that conversation? Exactly the same applies here. If you're putting a session together for your first go at American football, do you want to be the person on the receiving end of that session? If I'm a senior player and I'm bringing absolutely zero energy to running the drills, and I'm making them do all the shit drills that nobody really wants to do in football anyway, like, do I want to be the recipient of that experience? Probably not. So let's create an environment, let's create an experience for them that they want to live again and they want to be on the receiving end of, and you'd want to be the receiving end of. And that's nice because it compounds. And like, if everybody gets a good experience, it gets easier year on year, because the next person goes, oh, the vets really put an effort in when I did my version of this, I've got to do the same, energy's great, all that kind of stuff. But I think if in everything you do, you're just thinking, as a rookie, would I want this experience myself? Would I be enjoying this myself? Then you probably, like, that's a good foundation to build upon. And then the thing that we never do, and I think pretty much never do, is close our doors. So if people don't make the first rookie session, you'll always get like 10, 15 emails following, oh, I couldn't make it, I was at another sport, or in brackets, I was too hungover, so I didn't make it. Whatever it might be, who cares? Like, there's no judgment passed because you were in Freshers Week, you got pissed and you decided to go somewhere else. Like, come on Tuesday, we do a similar session. So the first session is try every position. The second session is pick your favorite two. So if you're naturally a receiver and a DB, you'll probably do half the session at receiver, but it's your choice. Again, if you're a 350-pound lineman who wants to play DB, try it. And then over time, we kind of, once they've bought into the culture and stuff like a barbecue on the first Wednesday, no, after the first Sunday session, we'll do a barbecue with all the vets and all the rookies. The vets will go to the halls and meet the players and then like walk them to the venue. So because the worst thing is not knowing where you go in, like they're out on our kind of student village. It's happening in the middle of Selly Oak where all the older players live. So we send players out to all those places and they bring the rookies with them. They all meet at like 7 o'clock or whatever after the session. And then, yeah, we filter them out into the more appropriate places once they've culturally bought into it. But if you try and filter people before they're culturally bought in, why the hell would they stick around?
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. That's very insightful. And then the sort of crux of when you've got a larger squad and you start getting a start in second team and playing games, how do you keep the guys that in 3 years' time they're going to be a player for you, but in the first year, especially in the Prem where you don't really have a sort of many blowout games where you can sort of put backups on?
Yeah, I think that's definitely twofold, and I think what Birmingham owes to the players more than anything is this investment, not just in recruitment but in retention. Like, so we since I took over as head coach, we've actually set like quantified metrics around what we want to achieve during a season. So it might be we want to be one of the American teams or one of the like the UEs or the Nottinghams kind of thing, and that if we do that, then that takes us to the right place in the season, all that kind of stuff. In terms of retention and recruitment, we measure how many people get through first term fees, and we want to retain a particular volume as a program, not just as a coaching staff, for second term. If we get too much drop off, we recognize that and we quantify it and we ask why and we reflect on it. So I think the players actually buy into creating a culture of something special that people want to stick around for, because it's not good enough to get them to the first session and then have them disappear. It's not even good enough to get them to the first 3 sessions, get their fees and then have them disappear. That isn't what we're trying to do. So it's very much like the players actually create a culture off the field that is worth sticking around for, I think is a really big part of it. Like multiple socials a week, all our players tend to have houses together and live together. And if one leaves and graduates, then another comes into that house. There's a lot of football houses. So yeah, I think that's a really big part of it. And then from again, not to be boring in terms of like the sales and kind of business side of things, but everything is sales. And social proof is a huge part of sales. Like if you need to build the trust that these things actually do deliver, or you deliver the product that you said, or whatever it might be. The same applies in this context. So you need to have a load of people who are your social proof that actually that person that you've heard was a GB player by the time they left the program. They actually did literally. So we have the odd exception. Don't get me wrong. Like Will Stone joined the GB program within like 3 months of coming to Lions, having never played football before, because he was a genetic freak. He just got it. But on the converse of that, you've got guys like Josh Vines and Kyle Burrows who like did just really enjoy the social side of the program for pretty much the first 2 years. And actually with the right coaching, with the right steering, mentoring, moving positions, all those things that rookies tend to go through, became some of the best players that the country's produced in the last 15 years. Having those cases where you can actually say that it's really going to happen for them if they buy into the process, if they buy into the coaching, if they buy into turning up every week, that is enough to keep them around generally. And do you know what? You just have to really enjoy what you're doing. Like if you make the sideline fun on game day, if you like, we hopefully aren't like that pleasant to play against. Like it's all like about creating that environment of like all together kind of thing. Like this is the Lions way. This is what we're doing. That's something to really buy into and stick around for. And if you know that the result of that in the end is going to be some cool days out to finals days and playoff days, and you get to be a better player and you maybe get to play for All Stars, Unis or GB or whatever, then it all comes together nicely. But it's helping people understand that and reiterating that regularly and not just hoping they're going to keep coming back.
Perfect, great. Yeah, I mean, I always said my favourite award was the most improved player,
Yeah.
and just my favourite stories are the guys that first 2 years they didn't really, and then suddenly they exploded as a player.
Yeah.
And like you say, tell those stories all the time.
We've got some good people who didn't really play until their fourth year, like Alex Salter, who obviously went on to start at the Blitz, and a guy who not many people know, but is like his name's Tim Curry. I think he did play some senior ball and stuff after, maybe Portsmouth and a few other places, but Tamworth. And like for his first 3 years, he had no coordination. He couldn't run. Like he just stuck with the process and became a hell of a football player and had a catch in the national final, which got called back for a penalty to our detriment. But yeah, in fact, a national final against you, I think that happened. So yeah, like you've got to focus on those people and really get people to believe that it's a thing if they actually are getting good enough coaching and they are sticking with the process. And that is easier when you've got good coaches. And most of the Prem teams have got great coaches now, so there's definitely that opportunity for the better programs.
Yeah, perfect. So that does take me on to the sort of coaching. So you've got a large squad. Are they all practicing at the same time?
Outside of COVID, yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, pre-COVID.
Not in breach of any rules. Yeah, like they all practice at the same time. We generally, for the like traditionally larger positions, we'll have at least 2 coaches. And these aren't people that are like necessarily like the world's best coaches or the world's best players. They're not like, well, we only take you if you've got GB credentials kind of thing. It's not like that at all. It's people that come from being ex-players. We'll speak to the guys at Samwell, we'll speak to the guys at the Bulls, at Tamworth, and be like, anybody interested in just coming to learn and be a part of winter football. But yeah, for your DBs, your receivers, you're looking at a couple of coaches who can, probably one that works with the younger players at first and one that works with the older. And I think a real mistake that people make is having the senior coach spend 95% of their time with the senior players and then have like the rookies work. Like I'll be honest, my personal strength as a coach is working with guys when they start out. Like once somebody gets to like, I don't know, like thinking about RDBs like AJ's level, I can't coach them like that much. You can't really coach those people that much. Like they're just doing it then. It's like when you're coaching at GB, you're just creating culture and organizing people who are better athletes than you've ever been kind of thing. Like that's a bit easier actually than coaching somebody who doesn't know to get his chin over his chest over his knee and be able to stand up in a stance kind of thing. So I think you should dedicate your better coaches to showing that you're invested in the newer players. And that is another thing that's going to get them to come back, because that recognition of, oh, that guy's like the assistant head coach, or that guy's the D coordinator and he's coaching my position. He knows my name. He gives a shit about me. That again is going to help with retention because they feel like they're being invested in rather than like pushed across to the side because, well, we've got like games to win and championships to win and stuff. It just doesn't work like that. So
Definitely. I'm not sure who said it, but people said the actual senior players actually see how you treat the newer players because they're friends.
yeah,
And if you just
absolutely.
push them to one side and say, yeah, all right,
They've been there. They've been there themselves. They've been in that position where they've wanted to be recognised and acknowledged, and for the coach to know their name, kind of thing. And I think that again, once you get used to that cycle, the senior players become a lot better. And like our senior players call us out on stuff. And I think that's really important. Like if your senior players don't feel like they're getting the delivery of the level of service that they deserve, then the rookies aren't going to get it either. So how are you going to recruit and retain if you're not giving that, like, I mean, servant leadership? It should be servant leadership. It's massively important.
Perfect. And there's practices difficult. Well, I know they're difficult to organise, but how do you organise them to make sure, say, you get into the 7-on-7 or the team period? Do you have two going on?
Yeah, so we when again I can only go off like I'll only go off what's happened since I became a coach. But since I became head coach, we, for like our Tuesday sessions, we've adopted something that I saw when I went out to the Gators, and like they under Jim McElwain, they broke all their practices down into 6-minute segments. We can't do 6-minute segments, that's not possible. But we've broken the practice on a Tuesday down into 8-minute segments, which actually just gets like massively, like less technique focused, more like just get the reps, high velocity, move through the drills, make sure everyone's getting reps. That's been a good way of getting people to be involved even when we're at high numbers. And then yeah, when it comes to like pass scale, run scale, 7-on-7, and 11-on-11, we'll generally have kind of, it's difficult because like we don't want to, for safety reasons, we split it out initially based on experience, and we'll have like a rookie scrimmage and a ones and twos probably scrimmage, and our 3s and 4s will do some stuff with the rookies. But very quickly we try and transition it into kind of like merit-based separation and merit-based division. So if a rookie really shows up, like they've got great, even if they've just got great attitude, or they just like they're really comfortable hitting, when like everybody's got even 3rd and 4th string guys who've been around 18 months who aren't like comfortable hitting. Like if you get a kid who, don't care if he's only been around 4 weeks, but if he just loves the contact, then like let's step him up and get him playing with the big boys, because that's how he's going to learn as well. So yeah, we do it based at first, like, and they kind of like go into opposite end zones, so they'll kind of work from the 35 or 40 on either side in, which also allows coaches to operate between the two drills as well. So you can split it out, and they can speak to them, they can speak to them, etc., all that kind of stuff.
Perfect. And sort of moving on from that sort of game time, do you have a system to get some? I mean, it always used to be get them on special teams, but now special teams is much more, yeah, that's changed a lot. Do you sort of rotate players in?
It's become difficult. It's become more difficult. But I think you can do things that help a lot. So like a rookie, again, just working from when I took over. I can't even remember where I saw this. I think it was on like Hard Knocks or something, but and it's not about copying the NFL at all. That is not a route to success. But they might be the Bengals or someone. They had an effort-based camp thing where the hardest working rookie, the one that made the most impact, got to be on specials in the first game of the NFL season, or maybe it was even just preseason. But like they got on the field basically. They were like it was a reward for being the hardest worker, the fastest mover, all that kind of stuff. And we actually do that. So to all our opponents, at some point in the first game of the season, on the start and kickoff, you do have a rookie you can just direct your return at, so work that out. But yeah, we start with that, and that gives everybody like a buzz through the preseason, like who's going to be that person that gets to be on the first kickoff on the first game of the season. And then it's merit based at the end of the day. Like if people deserve to be the 3rd string rather than the 5th string, I don't care how long you've been there, who you are, who you know, you'll be the 3rd string. If you deserve to be the starter, like somebody like Eddie comes in, we're not going to sit him on the bench or tell him what he's going to do, like tell him what he's got to do in terms of his play. Like he's going to be well coached, but he's going to be the starter from day one because he's one of the best players in the country. It doesn't matter whether he's a rookie kind of thing. So yeah, it's all completely merit based. We do our best. If we do take a significant lead somewhere, then we will get more and more people on the field. But yeah, I mean, it's much more difficult in the Premiership than it used to be. Like we used to be able to, I mean, we had a game, it must have been like my 3rd year away at University of Bristol, where we won by so many points. Everybody played, and the starters only played for like 2 drives, and you can't do that anymore. That's the league has got more competitive since Bucks, and you just can't do that. Is the reality these days. So it's all the other things which keep people around and retain them. I suppose the other thing that we do a lot of is stuff outside of football. So like we work really closely with them on their academic performance, really closely with them on their kind of professional and work future. And it's more than just football is the point, and that is enough to keep people around even if they're not getting on the field. Because if you live by the kind of theory that people are better for making the decision like your future will be better for having decided to be a Birmingham Lion than if you don't be a Birmingham Lion, which is the opposite of what is for most people in sport. They're like, oh, I'll just get pissed up and it's going to mean that I don't do very well in my degree and all that kind of stuff. If you make it the opposite and like actually being a Lion will make you a better person and get a better job and move further in your career, then it's worth staying around for, even if you're not getting on the field.
Ah, brilliant. Love that. And then one last question, if you don't mind. So I'm sure you do this, but I'd like some of the listeners or watchers to sort of hear how do you get the sort of guys to buy into scout teams during practice?
It's a good question. Not one that I've really. I don't think we've ever addressed that as a topic. Like as a so on a Tuesday, which is when we have classrooms, so we don't practice at weekends, which is quite a unique thing within university football. So we have quite a lot. We have quite like a lot to condense into our Tuesday and Thursday nights. But our part of Tuesday classroom, so we have classroom both nights. Part of Tuesday classroom is prepping the scout team for the scout session on the Thursday. So that helps because they've got a little bit more awareness of it, as long as they're not distracted by their phones or whatever. We'll just ban those if they are. But yeah, as long as they're focused and they're concentrated, they kind of know what they're doing when they get into scout team. And it's like anything else. If you look great in scout, you'll get to play more likely. So like be great at everything you do. Don't see it as scout, see it as an opportunity. But no, it's actually not something that we've ever addressed as a topic, because we've never had to create an intervention for it, I guess is the reason there. Like if you've got a problem with it, then you have to deal with it. Because the problem we had was that people weren't understanding the playbook quickly enough on a Thursday to actually run scout. So they couldn't just look at the sheet and be like, oh, well, that's a straight line, so that's whatever we call a fade kind of thing. Like they were struggling with that, especially early on, which is why we built the thing in on a Tuesday. But that was not their fault. That was our fault as a coaching staff. So we've created an intervention there to fix that. But in terms of attitude, never ever struggle with that. The players are just absolutely incredible at like making sure that we're prepping the best we can. So yeah, we owe it all to them in that sense, because attitude just hasn't been a problem.
Oh, that's brilliant. I guess, I mean, they're trying to show up, aren't they? They're trying to show up so they get onto the other side and not scout.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Greg, thank you very much we like to keep these short and sweet, so I really appreciate it. If you wanted to promote University of Birmingham, then you've got, although you have done a pretty good job already.
Great place to come and play, come and live and learn and enjoy your life, and hopefully be better for the choice you make in the university. That's all we'll ever ask for.
Right. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
No worries.